Well, if it's Friday morning, if it's 11 a.m. or thereabouts, it is the Consumer Advice Series, the About Mansfield Consumer Advice Series. And today we are talking your finances, your money, your wealth, your retirement, and your nest egg. So let's bring him in right now. Over my left shoulder, right here in the studio today, is our money guru. And for those of you who are watching on Facebook, you can actually see it. He's wearing his Saints jacket. And because Tuesday,
Fat Tuesday,
it's Mardi Gras.
Yep.
And he's wearing his beads. So
Ushering it in right. Fat Tuesday, so I can eat all the stuff I want to eat this weekend.
Phillip Washington Jr. is here. And tell me, I know that your wife is from Louisiana. Tell me what is Mardi Gras and what is Mardi Gras season like in the Washington family?
Actually, my wife is the beautiful expressioner of my roots. So my family is from South Louisiana.
Gotcha.
But she's the one that has manifested the expressions in our household and got us to decorate the tree with Mardi Gras. She's just a festive person. So, it's all the same. We're one unit. So
Yeah.
Yeah.
So we're not here to talk about Mardi Gras, but you look great.
Thank you.
Appreciate
you.
Let's get into the topic of money. And there are not only a ton of advisors out there, but then there's also so many different sources to pull from when it comes to money and investing. Who do I know who to listen to?
Yeah, so that's a good question. And what I like to explain is you want to, before you do anything, build a foundation in first principles, right? First principles is, people say, well, Phillip, how does Elon Musk, build a space company, build a tunnel company, build a battery electric vehicle company, and all the other, he helped build PayPal, payment company. Like, how does he do all these things? And he understands the thing of first principles, meaning if you can understand something at the base level, right, then you're able to filter information better from the so-called experts, and allows you to quickly know who doesn't know what they're talking about, and who do, and build a really good team. I like to use the example of talked about on the previous podcast. In the Bible, it talks about worshiping idols, right? And that boils down to men. We like to man-made knowledge, which means knowledge that's not first principles, not time tested. We like to worship that knowledge, right? It's the equivalent of, when I was coming up, Pluto was a planet. It's no longer a planet, right? And there's all kind of things that with our limited knowledge, we tend to put lots of belief in, but it's ephemeral, right? And side note, spot knows help you make a lot of money, but that's the principle. And so I give you like a couple of examples. So when Amazon came out, the origin of ephemeral knowledge is people will look at the past and recreate the future based on the past, right? Which, beside the fact that that's never worked in the history of mankind, right? But that's what humans continue to do. So use the example of Amazon. When Amazon came out, everybody said, there's no way people are going to buy anything on the internet. Like, we built all these great malls and retail stores and structures. Why would we ever do anything different than that? Forget the fact that they had not been there for less than 100 years. Right? We didn't have the malls and structures that we had, less than a year ago. But they were like, we're going to keep doing this into the future. And so they missed Amazon. The next thing was, social media, right?
Right.
Ride sharing, home sharing, smartphones, gaming. These were all things you said, this is never going to work because that's not the way that we've done things in the past, right? Another example is they're saying now about artificial intelligence, or the future of energy, or the future of money, or the future of working out, the future of work, right? These are all areas there are new ways of doing it that a lot of people are, worshiping idols, or the way that we've done things before, and miss a big opportunity. So the answer is understand first principles, and then build from there. And first principles let you know that like this ephemeral stuff changes, right? And it'll allow you to, spot the future.
Big news, as we know that within the past 4 or 5 days, is that Russia has invaded Ukraine, and a lot of involvement coming from the United States. What happens to the markets? Or I guess now let's put it into current day. What's happening to the market now that Ukraine and Russia and what's going on with the markets?
Yeah. So whenever there's like I'm answering two ways. What's going to happen in the short term? Nobody knows. Right? Who knows what's going to happen in the short term? It's my estimation that on my Wealth Building Made Simple podcast in December, I was letting everybody know, hey, I'm dialing back risk on the rest of portfolios because, the bond market was signaling, which the bond market is the smartest market. If you want to understand it, listen to the episode I put out today on Wealth Building Made Simple later today. But the bond market was saying that there was something that was some potential danger in the future, right? So we dialed back risk. This was in December. And then fast forward, it's like, oh man, the bond market, saw this conflict, right? The bond market also saw COVID. The bond market saw 2008. Like all the major things the bond market does in advance. And so the bond market may have already priced in all the risk, which was the drops that we had. So moving forward, in the short term, it could do well, it could not. The point is, I don't concern myself with knowing what it's going to do. I just look at, hey, what is the bond market saying, right? And have a long-term perspective, because trying to trade this in the short term is relatively difficult. And then the other side note is I got 2 text messages yesterday from one friend, one client. Say, hey, should we stop investing because of the war going on? And I was like, listen, no, we were the same age, so we're all like 37, 38. I'm like, I can't remember a time in my life where we have not been at war. And there's been a ton of money made in the market over that 37 years. So yes, we're still going to be invested, because this too shall pass.
So you've got low growth with too much debt areas. You've got high growth with relatively low debt areas. What are those areas?
Yeah, and you asked the question that I asked you to ask, and I forgot to explain this in the previous part. So going back to my big picture, 10-year theme from what the bond market is saying is, we've been in a in a low growth, highly indebted environment, right, since '08, right? That's been the consistent theme, and the trend's been getting stronger and stronger. So if you look at the bond market, it's still saying, yeah, the long-term environment hasn't changed. So stick to the plan. And in a low growth, highly indebted environment, what tends to do well are bonds, right? What also does well and makes a historically decent amount of money are growth stocks, innovation stocks, companies with strong balance sheets that are pretty large, right? Because this is an environment that's a environment where banks are not lending as much, and so if you got to think in terms of a banker, like a banker wants to lend to safe credit in an environment where growth is relatively slow, right? And then if you're an investor and investing your capital, you want to find companies that are growing a lot, because where else are you going to put money, right? All the regular businesses are growing slow, and so you go find innovation companies, you go find growth companies. And depending on your risk tolerance, the reason why bonds typically do well is people are like, well, hey, if I don't want to, I might have some money in these areas, but I don't want to have all the money in this risky stuff. So I want to own some bonds, because in this environment, that it's called a risk off environment, right? And so, I'm struggling because risk off is the wrong term to use, but what it means is it's a slow growth environment. And so depending on what type of an investor you are, if you're a conservative investor, what you're more concerned with in this environment are, for a portion of your portfolio, is things going bad as growth continues to go slow, which is why you saw bond rates go from like 3% all the way down to 1%, and they're back 2% or below. But those long-term bond rates are just trending down because growth is slowing. And so big companies and insurance companies and corporations are loading up on bonds. They're like, hey man, I don't like this slow growth. And there's not enough new companies and innovation companies for me to invest my money into, to park all this cash that's in the world, because it's so the world is so flooded with debt, which is credit, which is money, which there's a lot of it. I hope that explains it. I kind of went rambling for a second.
For someone who doesn't know a whole lot about money, with the exception that it's green and I can buy something with it, let's see if I get this right. Investing it takes time. It's a long-term commitment. Whether we are at war or not, stay in your lane and stay focused.
That's it. That's it. It's like just be patient, right? This too shall pass, right?
Right. If someone wanted more information, if someone wanted to if someone needed help staying in their lane, how can they get a hold of Phillip Washington?
The best way is stonehillwealthmanagement.com. It has access to my podcast, all my contact information. You can book a time. I have a, good educational information on there as well. That's the best way to reach me, stonehillwealthmanagement.com.
And then you also have your weekly, actually it's a daily podcast.
It's a daily Wealth Building Made Simple. That you can also access that at stonehillwealthmanagement.com. We put out 6 episodes a week now, soon to be 7, hopefully.
There you go. And Mardi Gras is coming up. You got your beads. Enjoy your gumbo.
I am excited. We are celebrating the season of new life.
We'll see you next week.
Thank you. See you next week.